Hello everyone, back to today's video. Well, it's time for me to formally and officially raise the white flag on my most longest standing forecast prediction, which I issued in January, that we were going to have an El Nino in 2012. It's time for me to raise the white flag on it and formally and officially say that the forecast is a bust. El Nino is not going to happen at any point this year. We're nearly at the end of the year now. El Nino, if it was going to happen, it would be peaking any time around now, around Christmas. So the forecast definitely went wrong, and I'll try and explain a little bit about why I think that happened. Now, before I get on with the video, I just want to mention the advertising. That will usually be a video ad overlay my other videos at gaswebbiz.com. Please play those video ads. You'll be supporting gaswebbiz.com by doing that. So I'm going to go back to July, and at that point in July everything was looking absolutely fine for an El Nino. Of course, El Nino, as I've explained in my other ENSO videos, is a warming of the Pacific Ocean in the equator from Peru, which is over here, to Indonesia, which is over here. The warm water upwells around off the coast of Peru, and then it gradually spreads out along the dateline, heading further and further west towards Indonesia. And the actual ENSO region is this area here, which is in the middle of the Pacific, equatorial Pacific. And to get an El Nino designated, you need to reach certain thresholds. You need to go above 0.5 degrees Celsius over a 5 tri-monthly period. So yeah, you do need those specific requirements to get an El Nino designated, and sometimes you have an El Nino actually, but it doesn't ever quite meet the requirements. But that's not the case in this situation. This situation is simply that the El Nino has collapsed. So here we are in July. Everything was looking on course. We've got a lot of warm water upwelling here off the coast of Peru, starting to stretch out in towards the middle of the Pacific. Everything looks absolutely fine there. And as we move through towards August, things looking even better. Warm water is upwelling now further and further west. Noted that from July, quite a bit of cool water in this area here around the equatorial Pacific. Let's move through to August. Further warming has taken place, and really you would look at this in August and say that the only thing that would happen from here is that you would get further increasing temperature through the remainder of the year, ending up in a designated El Nino at some point around Christmas. But things didn't pan out like that. As we went through to September, things still looking very good here, though it is evident by September that this El Nino was starting to stall. There was no sign of it making any further progress than this area here, and actually a little bit of cooling is beginning to take place further west. So that was just the first indication in September that things weren't really working out, but around September it still could have gone either way. But as we move through to October, this is really when the whole thing collapsed, and instead of a warm signal, which should have really have been developing very strongly through September, instead we actually started to see cooler waters beginning to upwell. And from this point really it was obvious that the El Nino was not going to plan, it was going wrong, it was stalling, and actually it was beginning to collapse. And that's certainly how things have panned out as gone through the remainder of the year. So this is the latest Pacific, actually I should say global sea surface temperature anomaly from NOAA, and by the way you can find NOAA sea surface temperature anomalies on my links page. This is the latest from the 6th of December, and it's very evident here that we're at ENSO neutral. We're not at a La Nina, we're not at an El Nino, we're very much at ENSO neutral, and that is likely to remain the case for the remainder of the year and into the start of next year. So quite simply, the El Nino started to develop. Everybody thought it was developing. Even NOAA thought it was developing. It looked highly likely through the summer, and then as we went into the autumn, the El Nino collapsed, and it just didn't happen. And the forecast consequently was wrong. We haven't had an El Nino, so this forecast, it's important to verify the forecast when we make them. So it's important for me to do this. The forecast has gone wrong. The forecast was not correct. El Nino did not develop. So why did that happen? Well, I think the main reason probably was the cold PDO. The cold PDO tends to limit El Nino potential. It doesn't stop it from happening constantly. You do still get El Ninos, but this cold PDO that we had here, very cold PDO through the summer and into the autumn in this area here, this sort of acts as a buffer really against this warm water spreading out through the Pacific. So yes, whilst you can still have the El Ninos in a cold PDO, and we do have El Ninos in a cold PDO, they just sort of limit things a little bit. And certainly the strong end El Ninos tend to be quite rare during a cold PDO. But on the other hand, according to NOAA, this is actually the first time an El Nino has collapsed in this way in recorded history. And we've been recording history, or they've been recording in El Nino history right way back to around 1950, so 60 years worth over of records for El Nino, and this is the first time this has happened, that we've had it developing through the summer into the start of the autumn, and then through the autumn the thing has collapsed. So quite an unusual occurrence really has taken place. Now, where do we go from here? Well, this is the latest El Nino forecast from CFS version 2. This is the United States seasonal model, and actually we can see that this is where we are at the moment, and the model is actually forecasting a bit of a La Nina to take place as we go through in towards the end of the year and into the start of 2013. This is around February-March around February of 2013, and it is in fact going just about down into weak La Nina territory. So quite a big plunge here is a big tip by the CFS model from where we are now to where we go into the start of 2013. Incidentally, look how the El Nino went up. The El Nino in 3.4 SST region in the Pacific, that really did rise up nicely through the spring, just backing up what I've been saying. But then we got to the summer, we got to the start of the autumn around August, September, and it was evident that the thing was stalling, and the damage really has been done as we've gone through the autumn. It just stalled, didn't develop any further, and the collapse has taken place through the latter part of the autumn. Now, the Jamstec IOD model sees us staying around neutral for the rest of the year into the start of 2013. So again, a neutral sort of signal here is being predicted by the Jamstec IOD model, and the ECMWF also keeping us around neutral as we go through into the start of next year. Although quite a few members of the ensemble do dip back towards La Nina territory actually early next year. But I don't think I'm going to call an El Nino. I think I'm going to say we're going to stick at neutral, certainly for the rest of this year. We've only got a couple of weeks left of 2012, of course, anyway. So, yes, definitely we're at neutral for the rest of 2012. Into 2013, I think we probably stay at neutral. That will be my expectation, that we'll hover around neutral through the first couple of months of 2013. As we get through towards the spring, we'll have to see where things start to develop then through 2013. Maybe the El Nino will have another go, but we could well, in a cold PDO phase, we may well slip back actually in towards La Nina. So we're going to have to wait and see what happens next year. But finally, just to recap from GallusWeatherVids.com, my prediction of an El Nino for 2012 has bust. It's not right, it didn't happen, and I've got to say, very sorry about that. That's it for now, thanks for watching.